Hello, YouTubers. I got a problem today, man. Apparently, I can't say it's okay to be Caucasian. It's supposed to have hate behind it and words. How can somebody outside of my brain? I'm going to educate you here for a minute. This is a no man's ray defense, no criminal intent. You have no proof whatsoever that I am hating on anyone when I say it's okay to be white. Okay, and it is okay. It's okay to be me. It's okay to be an American white person. Like you have an African American, well, you have an American white person. Okay, it's okay to be a white person in America. It's not against the law. Just because I'm white, I don't want somebody out there putting ideas in other people's heads because they're not smart enough to create their own and think that there's something wrong with me because I'm a Caucasian individual. I don't even check that on anything I fill out. I say I'm not a Native American, but I am an American Native. If you look up Native American, it says anybody born in the United States since its conception and before, indigenous people. So with all that said, the Anti-Defamation League needs to probably get sued by somebody for all this hearsay. Because what's happening is they're taking this hearsay and they're using it against every single individual in America to set court precedences. So it's going to backfire on you because you're the individuals that think that way. And I don't know why. Is it because of the treatment from the past, whatever? I don't know. I was on parole before I was 18, so I don't know what you're crying about. I've had my own defamation of character go on. I can't get one attorney to step up for me or even come to my aid due to the fact that I am white. Nobody pro bonos anything for me. They just go, we can't do that. We can't touch that. And they do it because the issues I wanted to address are situations like when a judge has looked at me thousands of times and said, well, not thousands of times, that's an exaggeration, but enough times to say ignorance is no excuse. So I go educate myself about the law because I can't find any help. Disabled guy. Right now I got stage 4 lung cancer. I don't know if I'm going to live or not. But the last thing I'm going to do is die, not trying to leave this earth a better place than it was when I got here. And that's for everyone individually. If you're in a group, you're in a group. You've just taken away your individuality and made it one group, one corporation, or one entity. You've lost your personal power because you choose to be in a group of other people and put a label on it. I consider myself a national. In the Black's Law Dictionary from 1834, I consider myself to be somewhat of a sovereign, or to seek sovereign civil rights. I don't know the proper definition or, to put down on this stuff because of the way people are interpreting everything. And this is a national emergency as far as I'm concerned, President Trump. I would like you to get this somehow. FBI, could you give this to him? Because I know you're watching everything. Okay. Something is wrong when you interpret something that's not in a foreign language. It's in English, like I wrote down a script, but I'm not going to do it because I'm not very good at that. And that'd look like I was reading stuff and I have learning disabilities. I've had all my life. I was in Title I reading all through high school, dropped out in 9th grade. It doesn't make me any more ignorant, but reading law, you think, you're going to learn something. You're going to be able to stop the people that are oppressing you. No, they're there to oppress you so they can pay their bills and raise their families and be successful on their own, excluding you completely in the judiciary sense and in the private cultural sense. Because you don't want to hang out with them in their club. You won't bow down to their gods. You won't be subservient to them. That's because I live in America. That's because I was taught that that's not how it is for an individual. Okay? So it seems to me that the problem in our nation is there's no enforcement going out and keeping these people in line with the hearsay. Instead, they've taken over the federal and state institutions and judiciary branches so they can enforce their bullying tactics upon individual minority people. And most sovereign people or national people are just individuals. They just want to be an individual and get all the rights that an individual is supposed to be, born into in this nation. And I don't see anything wrong with that. Everybody should have that. However, if you're ignorant enough to join an organization that doesn't support that, then you probably read something, and instead of taking it for face value and what it says, you have to put a narrative to it that's negative. Negative, negative, negative. There's never anything positive. When I look at stuff, I see it the opposite way. Oh, I'm dyslexic. Maybe that's why. But I see it the opposite way. When I see Black Lives Matter, I'm like, yeah, Black Lives Matter. All lives matter. Every living being matters to me, and I am a human being. I'm not a corpse. I'm not a dead person. So when I go into courtrooms, I let them know that. I'm not part of the trust they got going on there that's all secretive. Because if it's a contract, and I don't know what's going on, it's void. According to USC code and things like that. Oh, see, I'm coughing up lots of melting lung tumors right now. That's no fun. I don't even know if I'll beat this. But I got faith. I got hope. But the last thing I'm going to do is lay down, even though I'm going to die one day, lay down and not want the Constitution of the state and the federal government morally applied to everyone equally, which means the word interpretation is misplaced. It might as well say corruption, because then any individual in that power position, depending upon their group, can go against your civil rights because they don't want to understand that you have a frequent reoccurrence to general principles in this nation. You have the right to regress or something like that. I have to look at it and read it to quote it all. But I encourage people to educate yourselves. Don't just listen to somebody and take their word for anything. I share a lot of things on my Facebook. I share a lot of things on here. And I'm very, very multicultural with my posts, with the things I do. And I'll tolerate a lot of stuff I don't agree with, only because I'm trying to share information, and I think that's part of it. I just think it's very, very crucial that in this nation, if you change 2 words, or you take these 2 words and you put them in their proper places, this problem will get cleared up overnight. Every single one of them. Because then everyone will be schooled and have to equally apply the law to themselves and others. And that's when a judge says, in the judiciary branch especially, because that's the only place that it's valued, that it makes any sense, that it can be applied, that it can be enforced. The word interpretation must be taken out of the judge's mouths and be replaced with definition. If this doesn't happen, nothing will get fixed. And that's not a prediction. That's a fact. Look at what's going on right now. That's why it's going on right now. Because there's no clarity in government whatsoever. And hasn't been. Now that people are getting educated and they have these tools of technology and they can hem people up. Look what Congress and everybody's done, Washington, D.C. lately. Not a damn thing. Because they don't know what they're going to do with all these people waking up. Okay, part of being a sovereign national type person, you're individually responsible for pretty much yourself. You try to be, to the best of your ability. That the government and the state, to become a state, they signed world contracts with people outside of this nation and agreed to certain terms and conditions of treatment of individuals, like health, safety, and welfare. Okay, they don't tell you that that's important. They don't educate you that that's important. They don't let you know. Even as a national, I know there's a contract out there with the IRS and the Queen of England and the Archdiocese, and the Pope. They're the trust holders of everybody's Social Security number. That's fact. So, I don't know. They don't educate us. They don't tell us this. Right now, the contract's pretty null and void, I believe, in a legal opinion, without any emotions, just using studies and books. And the bar associations of state and federal government are the ones that are the number one corruptors of the system for not applying things equally and equitably across the board to individuals, and trying to make us turn us into trust fund. What is it? What do they call that? The bond that they have. They have bonds that's in your name, and when you go into a maritime court, they're all legally done on paper. They're legal to the world court. That's why they're doing it, because it's all legal. It's your ignorance that allows them to rip you off so they can build their nice houses and have their families and practice their religions and be funded through their whole lives and have their cultural religious faith pass that on down. Okay, that requires servants. That requires slaves. That requires people that aren't free. That requires subjects. There's a book called The Law of Nations. It pretty much describes the concept. And George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, probably all the founding fathers had this book. George Washington kept one out of the Library of Congress for like many, many years, so nobody could get it. Funny things when you start studying history and looking at how things do the forensics on it before you make an assumption or have any hearsay in your mind, because hearsay don't stand up in a court of law, and everybody thinks their feelings are so much more important in the moment than the actual reality, that it's irrelevant unless you're in a court of law and you take it into a court of law responsibly, civilly or criminally, to deal with it. Anything else, any acting out, any violent move, any you have to take that down because I feel like it offends me, any hearsay starting at all needs to be shut down, because that is not how it's supposed to be. Hearsay is not supposed to be admissible. They've been weaseling it in, and it's all happening through the judiciary system. It's breaking down, eroding our government. Because every time I run into a problem, that's where it ends. That's where the dollar stops. Boom. Every single time. And you can't do anything about it on your own, really, unless you go into court and do it yourself. Okay, and then the catch-22 is up. All of a sudden, you're practicing law, and you can be on the bar, and all of a sudden, you got to agree not to do that kind of stuff. So they tie people's hands that are actual attorneys that want to do good things. They end up going out, wanting to do good things, and having to go to college for a long time and getting brainwashed and reconditioned to only act in a certain fashion when it comes to that business transaction of defense or civil litigation. That right there is a huge problem. That sets it all up for corruption. Can I have contracts like that with me and expect me to want to go down there to court and oblige you when you're ignoring me, the individual that has the rights? Because I don't know how many times I've been told in my hometown, Graham County, Arizona, oh, you can't do that. And the judge knows. When there's a Supreme Court decision on his desk that says you have the right to travel, the state can't encumber it. And he goes against that, and then nobody does anything. To me, but they take your vehicle and charge you $500 without due process. So I know what the president's going through right now. I feel this. Woohoo, finally you guys get to lash back out at Whitey. You get to lash back out at him and retaliate vengefully. And all these people say they're Christians, all these people say they do this and they do that. They're all blowing hot air up their own ass because they're being violent. They are not evolving with the time. They're just repeating the behavior in a different culture under a different color of skin. That's all that's happening. That's not progress. That's not even constitutionally moral. It's like everything's happening out left field over here somewhere and nobody's enforcing anything. Look how corrupt the FBI is and the CIA. They don't even have the right people in there to enforce it. They have to go home and arrest their own friends, their own congregation. When that much corruption is in government and they drop the ball and let all the disenfranchised people's children down, the poor people. It doesn't matter what color you are. You guys got to wake up and get out of this color. It's not about color. It has nothing to do with color. It's all about the dollar. Okay? The Constitution is priceless. It's not for sale. In my opinion, not one right is for sale. I want all of my God-given rights. Every single one of them. Even if I make some up over the evolution of my lifetime, it's still a right that the natural God gave me through my evolutionary process. So there's nothing wrong with that. Nothing at all. Just because I don't believe in what you believe in. Or I won't suck down the same European philosophies and theologies that you're sucking down. You can't even create your own. You don't even have the ability, in my opinion, from what I'm seeing, I'm not trying to bash anyone, but I have not seen the ability of accountability, responsibility, and personal power. Everything's given away to something else. Okay, I can't do that. That, to me, is very irresponsible. I have to read the laws myself, so I understand what they say. Depending upon what I'm going through, medical, business stuff, I'm a lot better at the civil rights one because of all the criminal procedures I have been through. And I've tried using the civil courts today in Arizona, in Graham County. For some reason, and the guy was white on the bench, but for some reason, his religious theology would not allow me fair and equal treatment under the Constitution of the state of Arizona or the United States. He had to side with the other people instead of giving them the most important lesson they could have been given at that time is you don't treat other people that way and you don't do that. That's not cool. Because they were locals. They didn't go to the same church, but they were locals. They own property there. So did I. So do I. And they, and he sided with them. And I've tried to, without me filing the paperwork myself or spending a whole shitload of money I don't have, I don't get any help. How do you like that? And that's how it's been all my life. So I have no feelings or hate towards anyone. But I have a lot of anxiety, PTSD, and just outright what's really going on in my head. And I've said a lot of things in the past about religions, because I grew up in them and, I saw the corruption and I didn't know how to articulate it appropriately. And I may not be doing that now. However, I have no criminal intent and I have no ill will. And I'm doing this with all good intent to make this a better place than it was when I got here. That's all I'm trying to do. I don't know what everybody else is trying to do or what, where they get their knowledge. But apparently the narratives are eroding the American dream and the American way of life. It is what it is. All I can do is my best to make it the best place I can make it before I leave with the information I drop, It's picking up what I'm putting down or not, It's strange that I expect of others what they expected of me. They reformed me and sent me through all these juvenile homes and boys' schools. I got reformed. They still look at me as a slave. They can't change their minds. They had lacked the ability to change their minds. So who is truly disabled here? Them or I? If you put your Bible or your color or your creed or your origin before the document that protects that, I think you're putting the cart before the horse, so to speak. And that don't work. It's never worked. Why do you guys think it's going to work now? And where are everybody's parents, and why have they sold out to a corporation and lost their individuality? This is the problem. I don't agree with these contracts. As far as I'm concerned, they're null and void. Anything besides the Constitution of Arizona and the Constitution of the United States. The U.S. codes may or may not apply at times, depending if I'm a corporation or not. The state statutes may or may not apply at times, depending if I'm a corporation or not. However, I already know they have buried this since the 40s and this is a fact, I'm not hating on anybody. When they put God in the Pledge of Allegiance, it wasn't there in the beginning. And the girls, the guy's daughter that wrote it, pleaded to Congress not to put it in there. My dad's turned over in his grave if you put this in there, blah, 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 stuff like that. And they put it in anyways. Right then is when they started taking over our nation due to our ignorance. But they weren't educating us properly. They didn't want to let anything out. They knew exactly what they were doing. They intentionally did it. And now we're where we're at. So the crime has already been committed way back when. It's not happening here with Trump today. You know, he has an ironclad defense. He has a no men ray defense. He had no criminal intent. Look it up in the Black's Law Dictionary. No man's ray. R-A-E. And you tell me if I'm wrong. And it definitely explains Congress and everything. And how they got to go through the process. They're not doing it the right way. So they're trying to do this to us in America, each and everybody. It's a religious person, a spiritual person. I have my own spirituality, my own religion. Pretty much keep it to myself. It's not something that in my doctrine, it doesn't say I have to go out and violate people's civil rights by hearsay that they're going to go to hell and burn in fire if they don't do what I'm doing, if they don't agree with me. See, that right there is a criminal on its own. So if your Bible or book or theology that your spirituality you subscribe to violates people's civil rights, how is it legal in this nation? They tell other religions, oh, you can't do those you know, where they take the girl and they take all her pleasure away, the circumcision type thing that they do on women. Okay, they can't do that here because it violates, you know, their own children's rights, even though they think it's the right thing to do. Then how can anybody else do it? You know, equally applied equitably to every individual requires a definition, not an interpretation. That's where it all goes out in left field, you know. All common sense, logic, reason disappears. There is no reason or logic behind the tools of the past that were meant to enslave and control people. You guys have a nice day. And I don't know how often I'll do this. I don't know how often I'll be able to do this. I'm really trying to put my cancer into remission. I have other things to worry about, so to speak. However, this is so important. I'll suffer through that. And I'll address this because this is the most important thing. Right now, today, take care of your present moment, and every moment after that is taken care of. And you can't take care of your present moment unless you're properly educated. So, President Trump, we need more money in the education system to deal directly with judiciary, law, education, in a forum before you can drop out of school, so you know how to treat everyone when you leave those doors, so it cuts this bullshit big government down to size. Have a great day.